And welcome to the Barry Foster Show, now on YouTube, originating from the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, please just put them in the comments below. We'll be glad to respond to them as quickly as possible. Let the almighty algorithm know that you're listening. And check out our YouTube page daily, as we'll be putting up new programming on a regular basis. Don't forget to subscribe to our Facebook page and the Barry Foster Show group page and our Instagram page. That also would be very helpful. In the studios this morning, the handsome and exciting John Larsen.
Good morning.
Good morning, John. How you doing, my friend?
Okay. We did a little road trip, and we're back in town today. So yes,
I got to tell people that if you have not listened to Monday's program or Tuesday's program, you really need to listen. I had a chance to talk with Steve Slaybaugh from Strangely Warmed Coffee, and he is in the process of trying to get growers to try growing coffee instead of oranges. We have one guy in Highlands County that's already trying to grow some coffee, and it turned out pretty good for him. And now they're looking for folks who want to take care of this. They're starting with a quarter-acre plot, and he went up to northern Florida. There are a couple of nurseries that have been trying to find plants that don't need as much cold hours, and getting them changed over so that they will they'll grow in the Florida climate. I have some in my backyard. I have apples. The apples have not yet produced. The biggest one I've had is a little bit bigger than a ping pong ball. They have not, but one is called the Anna, A-N-A, and the other one is the Dorset, like Tony Dorsett. And they have grown well. They just haven't really produced. I think the squirrels may have gotten some of those. We've gotten some peaches, some Florida peaches, which are really good. I have the Tropical Prince and the Tropical Beauty. And they started out about the size of ping pong balls. Last season, they were about the size of tennis balls, and they're getting bigger. They're very juicy and good, you know. So now they're going to try to grow coffee here. And Steve seems to think that we're not too far north, and, coffee grows in the mountains. And so we have it over some of they're growing some down in Homestead and some other places. We have the altitude. We're like 115 feet above sea level. All right, so we're higher than they are. Not exactly the mountains, but it's an interesting program. And Strangely Warm's a great place for coffee anyway.
Stairway to the stars.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful program, and if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, I would urge you to listen to it. One thing that we have not had a chance to discuss, because it happened after our last program, was the whole brouhaha over Cracker Barrel.
Oh, yes.
And all the things that have gone on with Cracker Barrel.
Well, I'll tell you what, I went to a Cracker Barrel this weekend.
Oh, really?
Just to see if any changes have been made. Nothing changed with the sign. Nothing changed with the interior. It's still got the old darkened walls and the old wooden chairs and tables and so on and so forth. The menu had changed. It's more modern looking. It's classier, as far as the coloring and all of that goes. The food appeared to be the same. I mean, I had something simple, so it wasn't a big deal. But there were probably some things that were omitted from the original menu and added to the original menu. But overall, it looked good. I talked to the cashier when I checked out. I leaned forward and I said, I'm glad the CEO is gone out of this company.
Oh, did she get fired?
Well, I don't know if she got fired, but I think she's on her way. She made $7 million a year.
$700 million.
No, she made $7 million.
She made $7?
That's her salary and benefits.
Good
$7 million a
grief.
year, yes, to destroy the company. And it was did you see the interview by one of the original founders of Cracker Barrel?
Oh, yeah.
He's like 93 years old.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to think of his name.
And,
all I can think of is Truett Cathy, who founded Cracker Barrel. And
but I mean, his comments about it was a disaster.
It was pitiful.
It was
pitiful.
So, I mean, it's very interesting. But here's the thing. One of the biggest shareholders of Cracker Barrel is BlackRock.
Yes.
And BlackRock, the guy that's the head of BlackRock,
I don't know
his name doesn't come to me right now. But anyhow, he is, I believe, the new head of the World Forum
The World Economic Forum?
Yes. And, of course, his goal, and they played a little bit of a clip of a speech he made now or in the past, that no one will own a home, no one will own a car. You will rent everything.
Socialism. It's
right.
socialism.
So
yeah.
he /
Communism,
BlackRock
actually.
are in the bed with all of this world economic stuff, all of it.
Yeah.
And so on, with the buying up of the properties that they're doing around the country now, the homes that are under construction are about to be built, they buy them up, and then they rent them. They don't sell them, they rent them to get people into the habit of, I won't own a home, I'll rent a home. Okay, I'll rent a car, I'll rent whatever, and so on. So you could see how, with them being one of the bigger shareholders of Cracker Barrel, why this changes came about. Because if they hired this girl to be the CEO, and she came from other woke organizations, and Taco Bell, which I guess was her claim to fame before Cracker Barrel, and so on, you could see that she had a friendly group of people on the board in support of what she did. So I'm not surprised that it happened when you look at the history of some of the major shareholders in that company. So it's unbelievable. But, I mean, they got taught a lesson. They got taught a lesson.
Well, a lot of people think that this was intentional. I think it was intentional. I think what happened to Bud Light was intentional. I think that there's no by happenstance this happened. I hadn't realized this was going to happen. They're starting to run some of the Facebook ads for this place, and the way that the insides now are sanitized, it really makes you think of a First Watch. All the antiques are put in little shadow boxes and cabinets. It doesn't have the cluttered look anymore, and they're all bragging about how it looks like it's more open, and that's because they've reduced the size. But what happened is this is, and BlackRock is, I think, a real good example of them trying to take away Americana. And I had one guy say, what's the big hubbub about? And I'll tell you what it's about. They took away Aunt Jemimah, took away Uncle Ben. Okay, took away the Cleveland Indians, took away the Washington Redskins. They took away Bud Light, and they went after to do away with their core audience. And this, and they laugh at me when I say this, but it's true. They wanted to do away with Americana. You would go in their place and you would see products that no longer existed. You would see like Moxie Cola, and so you'd look up, wow, what's Moxie Cola? And some of these old brands of flour, and some of these old things that were American success stories, that really showed you the way life used to be in the olden days. Because if they take away their history, then they can rewrite the history. And so when you look at what they were doing to Cracker Barrel, there's a pushback now, but we'll see. I mean, they put Uncle Herschel, and so for the folks who don't know, that old guy that was on the label, his name is Uncle Herschel, and he's the uncle of the guy that we saw, the 94-year-old founder of Cracker Barrel. It was founded on the idea of literally being America's front porch. You probably know that the rocking chairs were made by Amish, and it's the same people who made them back in 1969. The same group of people are still making them today. And it was the whole idea of getting back to old-time Americana. And it was after he sold it, then they started adding beer and wine. Then they started doing away with some of the, and they started going on the cheap with some of the ingredients. And Sandra and I had been watching for years as the quality of the food went down, and we had complained about it. But it was the idea, we understood it was the idea the prices were going up. To keep prices the same, they put cheaper ingredients in. And so when this gal came in, and I think, personally, it was on purpose for her to change the brand from what it was. And they couldn't, so they started calling, quote unquote, the old guy. He was the cracker. No. The barrel was full of crackers. And the cracker barrel was generally set by the hearth, by the pot-bellied stove, so it would be warm and it would be dry, so the crackers would stay crisp. Okay, and that's what the people play checkers. They'd gather around it and talk about the news of the day. And so that was the Americana that gave rise originally back in '69, and then the history would go back into the 20s and 30s, actually, of what the Cracker Barrel was supposed to be. And a lot of us, and I think that the Cracker Barrel that you saw hadn't gotten to the remodel yet.
No.
Some of them have. We'll see if they go back.
Right.
The
other thing I saw as part of this whole story this weekend, there's another major shareholder, and I think his shares, if memory serves, and I think it's an individual. I don't think it's a finance company. I think it's an individual group and whatnot. He may own or be part of a financial group, but this was his letter, and I guess he used to be on the board of directors or whatever. In 2024, they sponsored some pride parades around the country, Nashville being one, I think Atlanta being another one. And at that point, he saw, in 2024, he saw what was coming, the rebranding of the company. And he wrote, I can't tell you how many page letter to the board of directors, and he said, you will die with this changeover. He said, I am telling you, when you do this, you're going to suffer the consequences. And he begged them to not continue down that road. This is a year ago. Mm-hmm. In early part of 2025, he could see more of it coming, and he sent them another letter and told them, this is going to fail, the company's going to suffer dramatically, don't do this. And then when it happened and the blow-up occurred, he said, I told you this was going to happen. I could see it. He said, you're messing with the history of the company, and people like the history of the company.
Well, see, and the thing is this, is that I think this was intentional, and if they destroyed the company, they would win. They would consider that a win for them to do away with this company and have this company go away totally, because the employees would be collateral damage. They could sell off the property to another restaurant chain. They would lose some money, but it wasn't their money. It wasn't their money.
No, it's shareholders' money.
It's shareholders' money.
Yep.
You come into a place, you have no holding, you still get your $7 million, okay?
The only good thing that happened when the stock tanked down, $100 and some million.
112 was
when
the last
it
number I
tanked,
heard.
it probably lost maybe about 10 or 20% of
12%,
its value.
12% of their value is what I heard.
That's when other investors jumped in.
Yes.
Because now they bought the stock at a reduced price. So, it was a lose-lose for a bunch of folks, but then it may have been the same people came back and bought it when it hit rock bottom. Mm-hmm. So it may have just, the money changed from my left hand to my right hand. And so, it's a game that some of them play, I think, in these financial markets. And it just shows you, though, that when public outcry occurs, a huge public outcry, and then you see the financial disaster, this is the kind of thing that happens. And if they didn't learn from Bud Light, they'll never learn.
I think they did learn from Bud Light, and I think they expected to be more successful in destroying the brand than Bud Light, because they stayed with that gal, as you remember, for quite some long time, while Bud Light became the laughing stock of the industry and lost so much market share. They tumbled from number 1 to number 5, I think.
And I think they also closed 1 or 2 of their breweries because they lost so much volume.
Yes. But I think, again, I think that they consider that a win to, again, Bud Light was a chance when guys could get together and have a good time, regardless of political outlook, and could have a chance to fellowship and network together. I think that was along with trying to say that the Washington Redskins, Cleveland Indians are racist brands, Uncle Ben and
even Jaguar. Now, I know Jaguar's not a big volume, but if you saw the commercial that they made introducing the new Jaguar, I guess a year ago, oh my God, it was like nothing.
Horrible.
You look at it, what are they trying to sell? You couldn't figure out what they were trying to sell. It was just an absolutely horrible promotion, and it cost Jaguar dramatically.
Yeah, and I think, we know how big BlackRock and Vanguard, and there's the third one, State Street.
State Street, yeah.
That we know how big they are. So if they have some of these holdings, that's collateral damage. And let's say, for instance, they own the competition. this brand goes down, the competition comes up. They really haven't lost anything.
Oh, yeah. Well, Steak and Shake, if you saw it, came out almost a week later, and they were happy as a clam. They said, we love our customers. We're not changing a thing.
Yeah, I've seen the Facebook meme that says Waffle House has figured out by not changing anything, that's their marketing brand. In fact, here in Avon Park, there is a place called the Bagel Bar, and they make their nuts on serving all kinds of different bagels. And I sent them a message. I said, now, if I were you, and I'm not you, I said, but if I were you, I would make a product, okay? And I would call it the Cracker Bagel. Say, you missed the Cracker Barrel? Well, we have the Cracker Bagel. Yeah. And they said, well, what's on it? I said, well, that's your department. I said, I would take a current offering and change it a little bit. Like, take your breakfast bagel and put some sweet barbecue sauce on it, okay? And call that the Cracker Bagel. You don't have to do a lot.
Right.
Offer or put it on a different kind of bagel, like a whole wheat, or put it on multigrain. Whatever you do, I don't know. I'm not a restaurateur. I said, but you could just take what you've got already and change it a little bit. We have another guy right here at the end of the street. We're up here at 414 West Main Street, right at the end of the street, named Dutcher's Diner. And Dutcher's took they served a big hamburger, okay? Same big hamburger. He put 2 onion rings on top and put some barbecue sauce on it, and he called it the Trump Burger.
And I had one last week.
And it sells like crazy, you know.
I had one last week.
So I said, I said, I said, put it up for a limited time. Call it the Cracker Bagel. I offered to write him a news article.
Right.
They haven't done it yet. And there's the Amtrak right on time. Yeah. We appreciate them so much. But I think if people did not know before, man, he's a lot closer than he was before.
A lot today.
They moved the tracks
over the weekend. Yes.
Gee whiz. I think that if people did not realize before that this was a concerted effort to do away with Americana, when you began to look at, and they couch it in quote-unquote racism, because you've got the Land O'Lakes Indian, okay? They got rid of her, okay, but they kept the land. Got rid of the Indian, kept the land. Got rid of Aunt Jemimah, and I got rid of Uncle Ben. I would be writing those brands now. It's called Millbrook or something. I forget, Milling House.
But I thought also that I saw a little story here a while back that said that they were going to bring back the Aunt Jemimah thing.
I've seen that. I have not been able to confirm that.
No, I haven't yet either, but I did see that story that they know that that company committed, again, suicide, if you will, financial suicide, and that they were going to bring back Aunt Jemimah.
There was a kid who was a cousin somebody, and he was an African-American kid who was trying to market his pancake mix, you know, and we tried to buy some, but you had to subscribe. It was tougher than I thought.
He was a comedian.
Yeah, it was a comedian.
He was a comedian, yes, professional comedian. Yes.
I think that if you take a crazy idea and turn it 5 degrees to the right, you can. If I was a small market brand that did rice, that did pancake mix, I recommended it. If you were a place that was near a Cracker Barrel, you could rebrand and go after that Cracker Barrel. They don't seem to be going back. They seem to have just stopped. Like, for instance, they did take their gay pride and DEI pages off their website.
Right.
That doesn't mean they still don't believe it.
No.
That just means they took it off their website.
Right.
I haven't seen any move to. I've seen the commercials already on Facebook that show it, and it does. It looks like a First Watch. Mm-hmm. Okay, and First Watch is a nice little place to eat, but it ain't Cracker Barrel. We go to Cracker Barrel for comfort foods. Mm-hmm. You know, I always get breakfast there. They biscuits and gravy and all that kind of stuff. And does it take a little longer? Yeah, it takes a little longer. It's okay. It's all right. If we're just traveling, like we have out-of-state relatives, and we're traveling up there, we got some time, we'll stop at a Cracker Barrel.
Well, I stopped for lunch. I think it was Saturday, I believe. Saturday, stopped for lunch. And we're a little bit early, before noon, but as we sat there, the crowd started coming in, and it pretty well filled up for the lunch hour. Mm-hmm. And yes, I look around, Average age, probably 60, 65.
Right.
Okay? And this is what the Cracker Barrel customer base is. It's that age group of people, somewhere between 75 and 0. Okay?
Well, now, I have seen families, and they have some very nice wooden high chairs.
Right.
And I've seen families with kids come in there.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
we've been in there,
Yep.
and we've kind of thanked our lucky stars that they were finishing up. And when they left, it looked like something out of the Ukraine. It looked like a war zone, and there was there was a lot of crumbs and crackers. And
Right.
I felt bad for the staff, okay? But the staff always seemed to be very, very that's what the way kids are. And so I have seen families come in there.
Yes.
And it's good to teach the kids, and with a hearth fireplace, the deer head above the fireplace, got a big musket hanging up there, but I think now it's time for the people, quote unquote, our age, the older people, as well as getting some of the younger people to join in the rebellion and say, look, we want our Americana. I've just started a new series on the Barry Foster Show called Made in America, and I've had two programs that I've put up there. One was Baxter Troutman, who grows his own cattle right out here at Dark Hammock Legacy Ranch, and you can go up here in Frostproof and buy. It's really good beef.
That's at the Chop Block?
At the Chop and Block. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chop and Block. And then I just put up one Tuesday with Steve Slaybaugh talking about coffee that it's roasted here. He just got a brand new roaster, by the way. And the idea of growing coffee in the United States. In the near future, I'm going to have Garrett Anderson, who's here in Avon Park, who has AmmunitionPlanet.com, and he makes a lot of bullets. We're going to try to get back to the Made in USA. I saw, who was it I was talking to? I saw somebody, one of the administration officials said, look, we're canceling a lot of foreign aid because our president doesn't care about making other countries great. There's only one country he worries about making great, and that is making America great. And it's going to be kind of up to us to looking for made in America. And by the way, if you have a product or a service that's made in America that you think we ought to cover, I'm not married to Florida, although there's some places in Florida. We're going to try to get Nucor, the steel plant, which is just across the line up there in Frostproof. I'm going to try to get Natalie's Orange Juice, which is down in Vero Beach. There's a number of made in USA products, made in America products that we're going to try to cover. But it's time to, begin to try to recoup the made in America products and to find products that reflect Americana. And I would suggest now would be a good time to go after the people who made Aunt Jemimah.
Well, you got that big orange juice plant just up the road here, too.
Oh, yeah, Florida Natural.
Right, and that would be a good one. Plus,
yes.
And I've still got the information, but the fellow that we interviewed at the Tea Party from Flatware up there in New York State, I can get a hold of him, and I'm sure he'd be happy to, talk about what he does. There is so much more to making flatware that I didn't know until I went through a tour of the factory and saw the operation.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But, he salvaged, if you will, equipment that is, some of it probably 100 years old, when he brought back, what was the original name of the company? Oneida, yeah, and whatnot. They went out of business or sold to the Chinese, whatever. He resurrected part of their factory up in New York State and then started making flatware that is made in America.
And you know what his biggest seller of the flatware was? He'd had springtime patterns. He'd had
everything.
Holiday patterns and Christmas and Independence Day.
Specialty stuff.
But his biggest seller was Harley Davidson. And they wanted him to make ones with skull and crossbones and heart. And he goes, nobody will buy that stuff. Nobody will buy that stuff. He goes, oh, please make it. No, nobody. And they said, we guarantee if we will buy X amount. So he said, okay, fine. And he couldn't keep it in stock. All the Harley Davidson guys and gals we're out there buying this stuff. So another made in America product.
Well, I've got serving for 4 at the house that I bought. I have yet to use it, but I've got a box because when I was there at the factory, they have a store inside the factory you can come in and buy.
Oh, yeah.
So I bought a set, all right, and they didn't have it at the time. They sent it to me when I got home. But, yes, I've got a set of serving for 4 of that flatware from that company.
Well,
It's a very unique story. There's so much more into making that. For instance, the stainless steel that he uses, he has to record every spoon, fork, and knife that he makes out of that batch of steel, the coil of steel, big coil. And I imagine they make thousands of spoons, forks, and knives out of one big, huge roll of steel. But he has to track that in case something comes up later on. It can say that it came from coil number 76942. And so he has to have a record of that, which is something I never really thought about. But that's what they had to do.
It's interesting because the Lake Ridge Winery, which is up in Claremont, they also have they have a winery, but they also have a little store where you can buy some of their stuff.
And if you wanted to talk about it's made in America, if you go into like Kentucky and Tennessee, the bourbon manufacturers there, oh my gosh, like Jack Daniels and the rest of them, all right, Maker's Mark, all of that, they're there, and I'm sure they'd be happy as a clam to talk about their business.
We took the Jack Daniels tour.
Yes.
Sandra doesn't drink.
Uh-huh.
I drink like 1 week out of the year, and I don't,
Right.
but I don't drink like what you would call a lot.
Yep.
I might have, over the course of the year, I might have 5 or 6 drinks. I don't drink a lot.
Well, you know the history when you go with the guide and the bib coveralls and all. By the way, I sent there was so many comments on Facebook this weekend over Cracker Barrel, and I just had to comment on some of the postings that were there. But I said the thing I'd like to see is that the entire board of directors and the CEO have to report to the next meeting all dressed in bib coveralls. Okay, I just thought that would be appropriate. Okay, and so
and I do think that outside of every silver lining, there's a big black cloud. And this thing with Cracker Barrel, I think, was just the straw that broke the camel's back. That people were fed up. Under the previous administration, people did not, I think, have any hope that anything would change, okay? But under this administration, and it just astonishes me how emboldened people are. You know, the people are really emboldened, and the left is going crazy because they don't take pushback. They can dish it out, but they can't take it.
Oh no, absolutely not. And I think one of the things is they're not used to pushback.
No.
I mean, and you see now, and it's happening. I know everybody wants to see the big name people that they believe should be in jail. I understand that. But if you listen to the news every day, some small level person is being charged, being arrested, and whatnot. So it's happening, and it's happening in a number of situations. It's just not like the Hillary Clinton or the Barack Obama or the Joe Biden. They haven't gotten to that level yet, but I think those kind of things are coming. But they have to make sure that their case against any one of those has to be ironclad. Because if you go to court, especially if it goes to court in D.C., you know that they're going to be on the wrong side of it.
Well, they go judge shopping.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. If any of those cases take place in D.C., you better have evidence that is so ironclad that even somebody who knew nothing would convict that person.
Yes. And you know, you see this with Grady Judd, and some when they bust these big rings of theft rings, pedophile rings, drug rings, whatever these big organizations, they start with a small fish, and they threaten the small fish with something really horrible. They said, but if you want to turn state's evidence, you want to give us the information, we'll go to bat for you. It may be bad, but it won't be this bad. And so they say, okay, and they turn up a little bit bigger fish. So they get hold of that little bit bigger fish, and they do the same thing until they can get the guy they're looking for. Or sometimes, and how many times have we heard now, there are whistleblowers, and we may have to get this tomorrow because we're getting up on time, but there are whistleblowers now who are coming forward, and the latest ones I heard were about how Joe Biden didn't do anything, that it was all being run by other people. So far, those people have not yet been named.
The one whistleblower who came forward was a female, do not know her name, but she testified she was the one that auto-penned almost all of her pardons.
Really?
Yes, and so on. So they've got that, and I think that was before James Comey's, committee. I think that's where she testified. So they've got some of that information. And again, I know everybody wants to see people put in jail immediately. If you don't have the evidence and it's not ironclad, you better not go forward.
What they're trying to do, John,
Yep.
is they're trying to drag their feet because they believe in their heart of hearts they can cheat their way into being the majority in the House or the Senate and put a stop to all this. That if Donald Trump doesn't have a compliant and a House and a willing House and a willing Senate who are wanting to go after these bad actors, then he's stymied, he's stuck, okay? And they're trying to drag their feet and hope that they can get away with some collateral damage. Some of the small fish, supposedly, I don't know this for a fact, but supposedly in the mob, you had to get arrested and go to jail for a while. And then when you got out, now you're one of us. And don't worry, while you're gone, your wife and your kids will be looked after. We'll take care of everything. When you get back out, you'll have a job. Everything will be fine. You'll do easy time in there because we know a guy who knows a guy. Nothing bad's going to happen to you while you're in the slam. And so I think they may be thinking the idea that, hey, look. Don't worry. When you get out, everything will be fine. We'll take care of everything while you're gone. Just clam up. Or if they're afraid you're not going to clam up, something really horrible might happen.
I'll tell you, yesterday I watched, I'd say it was at least an hour, and that wasn't the whole thing. Maxine Waters was being essentially interrogated by John Kennedy from Louisiana. And you know him with his Southern drawl lawyer.
That must have been exciting.
I am telling you, the information that he had, and it was right on the screen, and she came in with a gavel in her hand. And, she was so high and mighty and sat down and had her big wig on and all this other stuff. But he went through every family member that has been part of her corrupt organization. All right.
Really?
Through the years. How much money they got, what they got it for, and so on. And all of that. And, it was even some of her people that came in with her, part of her entourage, ended up testifying against her. And so on. So at the table in front of John Kennedy's committee. But he had the evidence, folder after folder on each one of the people that was either a family member or directly connected with her on a regular basis, and what they did and how much money they got or how much money was funneled to offshore organizations. And it was so credible, there was nothing she could say. She tried. She tried mightily to hammer her way out of that and whatnot, but it didn't work. So it's going to be interesting. They obviously have enough goods on her, financial data goods on her, that I believe she's going to be one of those that's going to be on her way out.
You think so?
She's 84 years old.
Well, see, that's the thing, isn't it?
Been there for almost 40 years.
That reminds me very much of Nancy Pelosi, who has been able to, between her and her husband, cobble together quite a few shekels.
Amen.
But she's to now, what's going to happen? She's lived a good life. She's been there. There's not much left that you can do to someone who's that age. And who was it? Was it James Comey? Who was it that they just Mueller that they said now has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease?
Well, on top of dementia, he's had dementia for quite a while.
Oh, is that right?
Right after he submitted that thing on the Russian date thing.
Yeah.
He almost immediately after that developed dementia, and he's been really out of it for 2, 3, 4 years now.
So these guys effectively are going to quote unquote get away with it. Now I know that in time they're going to coming back the other way. You know what? The nice thing about this, John, is that I remember back in 2008 I had a former brother-in-law who ran a trucking company. He was in tall cotton. He was making lots of money, and then during the Obama recession, he lost everything. He says, Barry, there are no trucks moving. He says, I know, because they come to my depot, okay? And all of a sudden, he went from making tons of money to making zero money. And he took what he'd put back, and he took his Social Security, and he's not with us anymore. But he took and he retired. Okay, he sold his up in Chicago. He sold his property off, and he made a pretty good money, and lived the rest of his life okay. So I'm glad to see these trains rolling with so many cars, because that means there's commerce going on.
Yeah, same way with, you see big trucks, big dump trucks.
Amen.
Hauling dirt or whatever from point A to point B. That's because something's being constructed. Whether it's a road, whether it's a building, it doesn't matter. But that means a construction is on the way. And it's beginning now, and I listened to it this morning coming down. There are so many projects happening around the country that were part of the big, beautiful bill that just passed, and things that are happening. There was a woman, I didn't get her name, but her position within the Trump organization is she's the liaison to go out and visit with all of these states and their economic groups and find out, okay, what is it you're doing to promote, for instance, the trade businesses, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, masons, whatever, and so on. So she's going around finding out what are the hindrances that you're finding in getting these people. Because some of the trade schools, they turn out, I listened to a fellow who runs it was a welding shop. He's a one-man gang, but he says it's not just the welding. And he said the problem is some of these welding schools, he said they're teaching kids with stick welders. He said, we haven't used stick welders for 20 years. So he said, in that instance, they have to get into the modern forms of welding and so on. But he said they also have to learn how to use the machinery, to run a brake, to saw, all of that. It's not just the welding. You have to be multi-talented in that business in order to be successful. So it was a good issue. She said she had been to 37 of the 50-some states and so on. And her goal for the Trump administration, go in and find out, what do you need to make these things happen? What can we do for you? And she said, I'm going to visit every state and talk to the groups that are responsible for that in that state and find out what we can do for them.
Well, we had a program with Donna Doubleday from Career Source Heartland. And if you are out there and you're looking for a job or you're looking to move up, wherever you are, at least in the state of Florida, if you type in Career Source and then where you are, your local organization will pop up. There's 21 in Florida, okay? And like ours is a multi-county. Career Source Heartland is Highlands, Hardy, Okeechobee, and Glades and DeSoto. Okay, that's so. If you typed in Career Source Arcadia, it would come up Career Source Heartland. If you were in Winter Haven, you typed in Career Source Winter Haven, it'd come up Career Source Polk. They can help you get those kinds of jobs to move up, and I'm hoping that there's going to be more trade schools. But I'll tell you what, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that tomorrow because we're up on time. You've been listening to the Barry Foster Show with John Larsen. Remember, don't forget, we're at the Ridge Flora Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. Any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, just put them on the comments below. Check out the YouTube page of the Barry Foster Show daily. We'll be putting up new programming regularly. And subscribe to the YouTube. It doesn't cost a dime. Please subscribe and join our pages at the Barry Foster Show, the Barry Foster Show group on Facebook and also on Instagram. As we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way, this is Barry Foster, and we'll see you next time.